um, second method, the finding the range. We have different methods of finding the range. One is Y method. That means let f of x is equal to y and get y as a subject. X is equal to some g of y or something you get, and apply the domain conditions for y. So the domain conditions means the denominator cannot be equal to 0, under root expression should be greater than 0. All such kind of conditions you need to apply for g. So if you apply the domain condition for g, then you get see possible values of y is range. This is first method, and the second method is starting from the domain and then reaching. Suppose if f of x is equal to some expression like some ax plus b or something like that, some expression, for example, then start from domain condition. That means where x lies. Suppose some minus L is less than x is less than m, something you have some information. That is basically the domain information. If you have, you just do the sequence of operations and reach some p and less than or equal to ax plus b is less than or equal to q. So the range becomes p to q. So start from where x lies and get where f of x lies directly with the sequence of steps. This is a starting from the domain method. This is second method. And the third method is if it is a finite set, if f is a finite set with less elements. If it is a finite set with less number of elements, then you can write list form of f, list form of f, and find range. Or totally f is a finite set, or a range contains finite number of elements. Sometimes the function may contains infinitely many elements, but all the elements will have the same image or only two particular images, or range is a finite set with less number of elements. For example, suppose f of x is equal to 7. It's a constant function. So directly the range is singleton set 7. For this, we don't need any method, because any input you give, the output is 7. The range is that. And suppose sometimes you'll get f of x is equal to, this is one example. And another example, f of x is equal to 2 if x greater than or equal to 0, equal to 11 if x less than 0. That means for all positive number, the image is 2. For all negative numbers, image is 11. Then you can directly write. Right?
Yes.
Then one more is a graph method. So draw the graph of y is equal to f of x. And along y-axis, wherever graph is present, that is range. Wherever graph is present, that's the range. So these are the main 4 methods that we follow to find the range. And which method you are finding it difficult?
The second method.
Okay, for starting from the domain and then getting the range. Okay.
Yes, sir.
For that we need to know the basics from inequalities. So inequality is if x less than y and add any quantity on both sides, you get the same inequality. So x plus a is less than y plus a. And subtraction is also the same. Actually, we don't need to mention this subtraction because we are allowing a to be negative. Automatically, subtraction also will come. But just for better understanding, we're writing one more form of it. Next, x less than y implies if you multiply with a number, the inequality remains the same only if the number is positive. Here there is no restriction. You can add a positive number, negative number, both are fine. The inequality remains the same. But for multiplication, positive number, the inequality remains the same. And negative number, the inequality will be reversed. Negative number, the inequality will be reversed. And then this is x less than y. And after that, reciprocals is there, and then positive numbers squaring on both sides, something like that. So 0 less than x is less than y. If all the 3 numbers both the numbers are positive, then we can square the inequality throughout. So then what it becomes 0 is less than x square is less than y square. So if both are positive numbers, squaring is allowed and then the inequality remains the same. And in case both are negative, still the squaring is allowed, but the inequality will be reversed. X square is greater than y square is greater than 0. Suppose one negative, one positive. No conclusion. We can't say anything. Then we can't write a relation between x square and y square. So no relation, no confirmed relation between x square and y square. Anything can be greater. X square can be greater, y square can be greater. Sometimes x square greater, sometimes y square greater. That's why no relation between x square and y square. And the next thing about the square roots, 0 less than x less than y. So then you can take the positive square roots of x and y. So the moment you are writing the square root and in front of that plus symbol, that indicates that it's a positive square root of that number. So this inequality holds. We can't take the square roots if one of them or both of them are negative. In case of x less than y less than 0 or x less than 0 less than y, you are not allowed to take the square root at all, because the negative number square root is not a real number. In these cases, no discussion only. And apart from this, taking the reciprocals is also there. So if both the numbers are positive, and you can take the reciprocals, and the inequality will be reversed. And here the inequality won't reverse. Between these two, inequality won't reverse. Only between these two, inequality will be reversed. Right?
So how come isn't the inequality only reversed when you multiply with a negative number?
Yeah, of course. When you multiply with a negative number also, inequality will be reversed. And when you're taking the reciprocals also, inequality will be reversed. I'll write more clearly with example. See, suppose 0 is less than 2 is less than 3. If you take the reciprocal, 1 by 2 will be greater than 1 by 3, right?
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. But one more thing also we can write 0. 1 by 0 is actually an undefined number. 1 by 0 is not defined. But still, because it is not equal to 0, and you can write that 1 by 0, if you take a reciprocal, 1 by 0 becomes infinity. 1 by 0 is actually not defined, but it tends to infinity. We have a chapter called limits. When you're learning the limits chapter, then you'll understand better. But for now, you can understand that 1 by 0 is not defined, but 1 by 0 is tending to infinity. Next, 1 by
Yes, sir.
1 by plus 0. 1 by plus 0 tending to plus infinity. 1 by minus 0 tending to minus infinity. So what is this plus 0 minus 0, sir? Both the same, no. So but here 0 we mean to say that very close to 0. 0 means not 0, it's almost 0 but not 0. Exactly 0 means we can't even write this 1 by 0. So 1 by plus 0 means 1 by a very small positive quantity will approach to infinity. 1 by a very small negative quantity will approach to negative infinity. So keep these points in your mind. Now what you can write is, this is 1 by 0. Technically we can't write 1 by 0, but just for understanding, greater than 1 by x, greater than 1 by y. That means 1 by 0, 0, little more than 0 if you take, here also little more than 0, 1 plus 0 and plus 0 if you type 1 by plus 0 infinity. Infinity is greater than 1 by x is greater than 1 by y. So inequality will be reversed. 0 will be replaced with 1 by 0, which is tending to infinity. Next, both are negative. Both are negative. Kind of x less than y less than 0. Here you need to understand less than 0 means negative 0, kind of. That implies 1 by x is greater than 1 by y is greater than 1 by minus 0. That implies 1 by x is greater than 1 by y is greater than minus infinity. After that, we'll write this 1 by y is less than 1 by x is less than minus infinity. That and all in calculations we'll write. But for now, just to highlight the point, the inequality will be reversed. I'm just writing as it is. Numbers in the same sequence, but when you're taking the reciprocals, inequality should be reversed. Because
Yes.
these are negative values, this will be greater than minus infinity. Right? These properties also we use when you're finding the ranges and all. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anything else like from inequalities, if it is there, then we'll see when we are doing problems, then that time. Now we do some problems based on these inequalities, the domain range problems. Start with one problem where we start from the domain. Okay. The second method, we use the second method for this kind of problems. 18th, second one. F of x is equal to 1 minus mod x minus 2. So we start from the known fact. We know that mod x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. We multiply with minus. Why we multiply with minus? Because we are in a need of 1 minus mod x minus 2. We started from one of the expression. To reach that 1 minus mod x minus 2, you should multiply with minus first and then add 1 next. So when you multiply with minus, mod x minus 2 is less than or equal to 0, and add 1 to it. 1 minus mod x minus 2 less than or equal to 0. Sorry. I need to add 1. Multiplying is fine. 0 into minus is also 0. Now I need to add 1 both sides. So what I got that 1 plus 1 minus mod x minus 2 belongs to minus infinity to 1. Belongs to minus infinity to. So the range is minus infinity to 1 close. And one more is kind of 1 plus 3 cos 2x. But this also we know that minus 1 is less than or equal to cos 2x less than or equal to 1. So when we know that minus 1 is less than or equal to cos 2x is less than or equal to 1, and we want to know where this expression lies, we multiply with 3. So the minus 3 is less than or equal to 3 cos 2x is less than or equal to 3. And then we add 1 throughout. So 1 minus 3 is less than or equal to 1 plus 3 cos 2x is less than or equal to 1 plus 3. So minus 2 is less than or equal to 1 plus 3 cos 2x is less than or equal to 4. So we could identify where this, we started from the known fact that where cos 2x lies, and we could reach the where that 1 plus 3 cos 2x lies. So 1 plus 3 cos 2x belongs to close minus 2 to 4. So the range is minus infinity, sorry, range is minus 2 to 4.
So how will we find the domains for these equations?
Domain is,
Functions?
yeah, the domain, the same function, if question asked, please find the domain. The same function as modulus of x is defined,
Oh, so it'll be the set of all real numbers.
yeah, for every real number. Therefore, mod x minus 2 is also defined for every real number, and minus mod x minus 2. So by multiplying minus, we are not getting any indeterminate form. By adding a number, we are not getting any difficulties. So all these are defined for all real numbers. So the domain is all real numbers. And even for this also, the domain of cos 2x, you can calculate cos 2x for any real number. So when you can calculate cos 2x for any real number, and 3 multiplied to that also can be calculated for any real number. So the 3 cos 2x, also the domain will be the R. And when you need to add this number to 1, so for every real number you can calculate this value and add it to 1. So 1 plus 3 cos 2x is also defined for every real number. So the final domain is R. If you have any indeterminate forms, or like 1 by a polynomial or under root a polynomial, something like that, we have restrictions for the denominator. Denominator cannot be 0. We have a restriction for under root expression. Under root expression cannot be negative. We don't have any restrictions for inside modulus expression. Inside modulus expression can be negative, positive, rational number, irrational number, any real number. Any real number you can calculate the modulus. So there is no restriction for the input. Input can be any real number. So set of all possible inputs is the domain. Set of all possible outputs is the range. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We can discuss some other examples also. For example, range means this one. The root, the 8th example, second bit. Root of 16 minus x square. Finding the domain for this, domain condition is 16 minus x square. Domain condition we should write. Domain condition 16 minus x square greater than or equal to 0. So 4 minus x into 4 plus x greater than or equal to 0. The wavy curve method, that minus 4 here and then plus 4 here, the zeros of these linear polynomials. Because the x square coefficient is negative in the product, you start from minus in the rightmost. And after that, the powers are 1, odd numbers, so alternate plus minus, you write plus minus. You are expecting the product to be positive, so the x belongs to closed minus 4 to 4. You're writing closed interval because equality is there, and 4 and minus 4 also can be included. This is what the domain. So this is finding domain. When the question asks you to find the range of it, you need to start from where x belongs to. If you observe carefully here, x squared first, and then multiply with minus next, and then 16 added next, and then took the square root next. So if you give the numbering for that, first thing that you're doing to x is squaring. Next thing that you're doing to the x is multiplying with minus to that x square. Next thing that you're doing is adding 16. Next thing that you're doing is taking the square root. So all these you need to do in the same sequence. So you need to do the closest one first, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. It's kind of that. So you start from where x lies. We know that minus 4 is less than or equal to 4, because that's a domain. Now, the first thing is you need to know where the x square lies. So as we discussed, in inequalities, we have a restriction that we can square inequality only if both are positive. Of course, we can square only when both are negative. Or one is negative, one is positive. It is no relation between x square and y square. Sometimes it can be positive, sometimes same, sometimes different. That's why we won't apply squaring on both sides for when one is negative, one is positive. So then what to do? We divide this into two intervals, two cases. Minus 4 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 0. You can include 0 also, or simply you can write like 0 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4. So now you separated the negative values of x and positive values of x. In this interval, all are negative. In this interval, all are positive. So you have a possibility of finding where the x square lies. Right? So what you can write, so minus, if you simplify this, squaring on both sides, minus 4 whole square, 16, because the negative numbers, inequality will be reversed, greater than or equal to x square greater than 0. Because you're dividing the same set into two parts, there is an r between them. You want x to be between these two. If x is there as a negative number and then satisfying this, or a positive number satisfying this, anything is fine. Or here also, if you square on both sides, you'll get x square less than or equal to 16. If you see, this is a subset of it. Both you are getting the same almost. So that's why instead of writing two conditions, you can write one condition. You can write one condition. What is that? 0 is less than or equal to x square is less than or equal to 16 as a conclusion. Basically, union of these two. Union of natural numbers and integers is natural integers itself. When you're writing union of natural numbers and integers, so no need to write the natural numbers again. When you do the union, you'll get the bigger set. So like that. Now we are able to reach one target. 4 targets are there. After that, we need to identify, investigate where the minus x square lies. For that, multiply with minus throughout the inequality. So for that, no restrictions. Any inequality can be multiplied with minus. Inequality will be just reversed. So the 0 greater than or equal to minus x square greater than or equal to minus 16. But always, for better understanding about the inequality, we'll write the lesser quantities first. Basically, we write the numbers in increasing order. Minus x square less than or equal to 0. The same thing we wrote in reverse order. Next, the second goal also we reached. And the third goal is we need to know where 16 minus x square lies. For that, we need to add 16 throughout. 16 minus 16 is less than or equal to 16 minus x square is less than or equal to 16. I added 16 throughout. After that, this becomes 0 is less than or equal to 16 minus x square is less than or equal to 16. Luckily, we got 16 minus x square only in the positive intervals. We are allowed to take the square roots only if it is in the positive interval. If negative number is there in the interval, we can't take the square root. So we take the square root throughout the inequality, and the positive square roots we take, because the requirement is also positive square root of 16 minus x square and positive square root of 16, which is 4. So we got the expression that which we are looking for lies between 0 to 4. So the range is close to 0 to 4. Right?
So can we solve this in the using the Y method also?
Y method usually we use with polynomials only. With polynomials, we use the Y method because you get a quadratic equation or linear equation, then we can use the domain conditions. So if you use the Y method for this, you get y square and x as a subject and possible y values. Yeah, we'll try that. We'll see any difficulties comes, then I'll tell you what is the why we can't use that logic and all. So suppose y is equal to root of 16 minus x square for the same problem. So if you y is a positive value, from here you need to understand that y is a positive value, because the root in front of root you have a plus symbol, so that's why it's a positive square root of 16 minus x square. And so then y square, obviously you need to write x as a subject, y square minus x square, and then x square equal to 16 minus y square. So the x is equal to plus or minus, because when you are only taking the square root, you should take plus and minus square root of 16 minus x square. Sorry, 16 minus y square. Right? Now, it is the domain of this function is not all real numbers. If the domain of this function is not all real numbers, then we can directly write the possible values of y. But the x lies between minus 4 to 4. They're given the domain condition. If you find minus 4 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4, you got this as a domain already. So you need to use many conditions here. Suppose the one condition is, first of all, 16 minus y square should be greater than or equal to 0. 16 minus y square should be greater than or equal to 0. Right? So then what it becomes, again the 4 minus y into 4 minus 4 plus y is greater than or equal to 0. Use the y method. That's minus 4 and 4. And again, y square coefficient is negative, negative, positive, negative. You want the product to be positive. Y belongs to minus 4 to 4. So when you get the minus 4 to 4 as y, so you won't think in this direction that y should be positive, because in the beginning, the actual equation of y. So this is the transformed equation of y. The actual equation of y is a positive number. I mean, non-negative. It can never be negative. So here, the negative numbers are not allowed. So that you need to exempt. So this condition you need to see, condition number 1. This condition you need to see, condition number 2. And third condition is, you should choose the y such that x lying in this interval. Suppose for the y that you are getting, if x is not lying in this interval, those also you should exempt. Now you know the answer is 0 to 4 closed interval, and if you intersect 1 and 2, you get closed interval 0 to 4. That's why that is the answer. Simply because of that is the answer, here you may feel like this is simple method. But here, just by intersection of 1 and 2, so 1 and 2 implies y belongs to 0 to 4. But still you can't conclude 0 to 4 as a range. You need to check. If you take the y values between 0 to 4, x values are coming between minus 4 to 4 or not. That you need to check. After checking and confirming that, then only you can confirm y as a range. Again, y is 0 to 4. Whatever method we did earlier, the same method we need to do. So 0 less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 4. So the squaring on both, squaring throughout. y square, and then the minus 16 is less than or equal to minus y square less than or equal to 0. Adding 16 throughout, 0 less than or equal to 16 minus y square is less than or equal to 16. Taking the square root, if you take the positive square root, you get 16 minus y square less than or equal to 4. If you multiply this with minus, then what you get, minus 4 is less than or equal to minus root 16 minus y square is less than or equal to 0. So because x can be plus or negative, y cannot be negative, but x can be negative. So you can take both positive and negative square roots of y. So in such cases, what you need to check, okay, so the x value, this is also x value and this is also x value. So the x belongs to minus 4 to 4. If you take the y values between 0 to 4, your corresponding x values are coming between minus 4 to 4. So no problem for the domain. And then you confirm that hence y belongs to 0 to 4. See, without this verification, you can't confirm here.
Oh,
So then literally you're doing the same method.
longer.
Yeah, the same method you're using. The previous, this one, whatever you're doing here for the x, the same thing you're doing for the y and then verifying. So, and moreover, you need to know many conditions that, okay, I need to see that also, I need to see this also, I need to remember so many conditions. So sometimes you do these two and you'll forget to verify that x should lie in the domain for the y values. Sometimes you won't see that y is a positive here given in the information. You start from this. And if you start from this without verifying this, if you simply start from y belongs to minus 4 to 4, even for that also you get x belongs to minus 4 to 4. Then you will end up with writing a range as minus 4 to 4. So you should have a look at this. That's why directly if you go for that, then it is easy to understand that you are looking for only positive square root of 16 minus x square. Get it directly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any particular problems that you have from relations and functions?
Yeah, so 1 minute.
Yeah.
So should I give one question like that?
I have the textbook, and then if you have any other question other than the textbook questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll pick the textbook questions and then explain. I will explain one textbook question, and the other questions, like if you have some more practice problems given by your teachers or something, you can ask those questions. Suppose the 19th problem from the exercise, that f of x equal to mod x minus 2 plus mod 2 plus x, and minus 3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 3. So this is what f of x they're given, and they're asking us to redefine this function. This redefining is kind of you take a number line, and in this number line you take the zeros of these polynomials. My x minus 2 0 is 2 and 2 plus x 0 is minus 2. So why you are taking these zeros means on left and right of the zero of with the polynomial, the modulus behavior different changes. I mean to say, if you take any number greater than 2, inside the modulus expression for the first one is positive. You take 3, 4, 5, 6, all those numbers, this expression is positive. You take any number less than 2, you take any number less than 2, just kind of 1, 0, minus 1, minus 2, any other number less than 2, this will be a negative number. When you're getting a negative number inside the modulus and removing the modulus, you should write minus of that. So I'll just give the definition of mod x. Mod x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0, equal to minus x if x less than 0. It looks strange for you, like if you didn't notice that fact that minus x is the mod x value only when x is negative. So our usual tendency is The moment you see the minus in the beginning of a number, we feel that is a negative value, but it is not. For example, minus of minus 7, is it a negative number or a positive number?
So positive.
Positive number. Just because of it is beginning with minus, you can't say that it is a negative number. After minus, what is there? After minus, if you write a positive number, then that is negative number. After minus, if you write a negative number, that becomes positive number altogether. So here clearly mentioned that in the mod x definition, x is a negative number. In case of x is a negative number, that x, the negative number is multiplied with minus and written. So the minus of the negative number is positive. So you're writing a positive number here. And in case of x is a positive number, you're writing directly that element. That means in case positive number also you're writing positive. In case negative number also you're writing positive. Right? But if it is a number like mod of minus 11, you can say that 11. So in usual long ways, what you say is, okay, when I'm calculating modulus, if minus is there for the number, I'll remove the minus. But removing the minus in as a sentence, it is fine. Mathematically, how will express the removing minus? Removing minus mathematically can be expressed as multiplying with minus. If you multiply with a negative number with a minus, automatically the minus will be removed. So you can say that mod of minus 11, instead of simply saying 11, you can say that minus of minus 11. In case of negative number is there, its modulus is minus times of it. Suppose modulus of 5. So then directly you write 5. In case positive number is there, its modulus is the number itself as it is. So you write as it is if it is positive. You write multiplying with minus and then write if it is negative. So fix the definition in your mind as writing as it is if it is positive, basically non-negative, 0 also should be included. Writing as it is if it is non-negative, writing minus times of it, writing minus times of it if it is negative, right? So this definition is fixed, then it is easy now. Yeah, coming to this, now because it is changing its behavior on left and right of minus 2, so minus 2 is a reference point, and 2 plus x, sorry, here this is plus 2. Plus 2 is a reference point corresponding to this modulus expression, and this is also changing its behavior on left and right of minus 2. That's why minus 2 is also one reference point because it's changing its behavior. Now, with respect to these two modulos, the full real number set real numbers is divided into 3 intervals. What are those? Minus infinity to minus 2, minus infinity to minus 2, and minus 2 to 2, and 2 to infinity. Divided into 3 numbers. So this function behavior is different in these 3 intervals. But actually they are given the function between only minus 3 to 3. So even though it behaves same throughout this interval, the first interval, our interest is only till minus 3. Our interest is only till minus 3. And in this interval full we have interest. In this interval our interest is only till 3. That's why what we do is the first interval will write as, when you're redefining, you'll divide this into 3 cases. What is the first case? Minus 3 is less than or equal to x less than minus 2. Case number 1. Case number 2, minus 2 is less than x is less than 2. Case number 3, 2 is less than x is less than 3. First case is this, second case is this, and third case is this. What happens in the first case, what happens in the second case, what happens in the third case, that we'll see. Suppose the case 1, for case 1, case 2, case 3, we'll observe the behaviors of these expressions. X minus 2, the first expression, x plus 2, or 2 plus x. We'll write directly 2 plus x. As it is, we'll write. So first expression and second expression, let us observe the behaviors of that. In first interval, between minus 3 to minus 2, let us take one number in this interval. For example, minus 2.5 is in that interval. Now you substitute minus 2.5 in this x minus 2. Minus 2.5 if you substitute in this, minus 2.5 minus 2 minus 4.5. You're getting a negative value. Substitute minus 2.5 in this expression. You get minus 2.5 plus 2 minus 0.5. So you understood that in this interval, you take any number, randomly one number we took and then verified. You take any number, inside modulus expression for the first one is also negative and the second one is also negative. So if inside the modulus expression is negative, when you're removing the modulus, what we are supposed to do from based on the definition? We should multiply that inside modulus expression, whatever. Here it is x, here it is x minus 2 with minus and then write mod x equal to minus x because x is negative. X in the sense inside modulus expression. Inside the modulus expression is negative in this interval. That's why when you're removing the modulus, write minus next. Plus of, here also 2 plus x is also negative inside this in this interval. So multiply with the minus and then write. Next. Moving to the second case. You take one random number in this. Usually we'll try to take a number as simple as possible. In this interval, the simple number that we can think about is 0. Substitute 0 in it, you get minus 2. Substitute 0 in it, you get a 2. So minus 2, 2. And now again come to here. First interval, if you substitute 0, you're getting a negative value, minus 2. So you're getting negative means when you're removing the modulus, if inside modulus value is negative, when you're removing the modulus, you should write minus times of that. Multiply with the minus and write. Plus. Next expression is positive in this interval. Next expression is positive. You substitute any value from this interval in this expression, you get a positive value. So when you're removing the modulus, you should write as it is. You should not multiply with minus. Right? Next. Here, again, you take one number in this interval. Between 2 to 3, just take 2.5. Substitute 2.5 in it, you get 0.5, 4.5. So both are positive. 0.5 is positive, 4.5 is positive. So 0.5 is positive means if you substitute the positive, if you get the positive value inside the modulus, when you're removing the modulus, you should write it as it is, x minus 2 plus, and here also you're getting positive, 2 plus x. Now the next step, you will just simplify it and write it. So you write minus x, minus x. Minus 2 plus 2 get cancelled. It's minus 2x. Next, equal to minus x plus x get cancelled. 2 plus 2, 4. Next, 2 get cancelled and 2x. And now we didn't verify that 2 and minus 2. That we can separately verify. X is equal to minus 2. At x is equal to minus 2, what is the value of it? F of x equal to mod of minus 2 minus 2. The next one is 0, which is equal to 4. X is equal to 2 also you can verify separately. F of x equal to 2 minus 2, 0 plus 2 plus 2. This is also 4. So at minus 2 also you are getting 4. Plus 2 also you are getting 4. You can include them here. You can put equal to here after verifying separately. So this is what redefining. And this minus 2 getting 4 will happen here also. If you use this definition also, if you substitute x is equal to minus 2, you get 4. And here also, if you substitute x is equal to 2, you get 4. So the including equal to here or here, anywhere is fine. Or in both places also, doesn't matter. So here also you can put equal to, here also. Here also you can put equal to, here also you can put. But I just kept in middle one because it's straightforward 4 instead of doing calculation getting 4. Right? You want to do one more problem of this type, or you can try today and then tomorrow if you have doubt in that, like again we can discuss.
Yes, I'll try it today.
Yeah. So the greatest integer function, the definition is denoted by x. Greatest integer function of x is denoted by x and is defined as greatest integer less than or equal to x. Greatest integer less than or equal to x. Right? This is the definition. So integral part of suppose 2.7. What will be the integral part of 2.7? According to the definition, we'll do first. So the greatest among all integers less than or equal to x. All integers less than or equal to 2.7 means all negative numbers -1, 0, 1, 2. And the greatest among these is 2. So it is 2. Suppose integral part of 9. Greatest among all the integer less than or equal to it. So 6, 7, 8, 9 also will come because the number itself is integer and then this is greatest integer less than or equal to it. Here 2.7, 2 is the greatest integer less than or equal to it. 2.7 cannot be included because that's not an integer. 3 cannot be integer because that is not less than it. But where in case of 9, you can include 8 and even include 9 also because 9 itself is integer and it is equal to it, less than or equal to it, equal to it. So now the greatest among that is 9, right? And if you go for negative numbers also, suppose -7.4, greatest integer function of -7.4. Because for positive number, it looks like just to remove the part after decimal, then you get the answer. So it is easy to understand. If you go for two more example, integral part of 9.7, it's directly 9. Integral part of 23.47, directly 23. So it's easy to write for the positive number. Just remove the fractional part, the decimal part, you'll get the answer. If there is no decimal part, directly the number itself is the answer. So you can get like this. But when it comes to the negative numbers, according to the definition, if you see, the greatest among the numbers less than or equal to it, integers less than or equal to it. So what are those numbers? -10, -9, -8, that's all. -7 is not less than -7.4. -7 is more than -7.4. See, negative numbers, greater magnitude numbers are lesser than the lesser magnitude numbers. That means when it is negative, lesser magnitude numbers are actually greater numbers. Right? So -2 is greater than -10. -2 is greater than -10. -2 is greater than -3. But magnitude wise, -2 has lesser magnitude too. Right? Like that. So the lesser number than -7.4 will actually have more magnitude than the 7.4. All these integers which are having more magnitude than -7.4 will come. And the greatest among all those is -8. So this is not similar to the positive numbers case. Positive numbers case, you just ignore the decimal part. But whereas the negative numbers, it is not ignoring the decimal part. If you ignore the decimal part, you'll get -7, which is not the answer. Right? So, And when it comes to the negative integers, minus 11, integral part of minus 11, greatest among and so on, minus 13, minus 12, and minus 11 also will be included. The greatest one is minus 11. So for integers, no problem. Even though they are negative numbers, integers, numbers itself. Number itself is the greatest integer function. And if you go for minus 14.734, the integral part is, what is the integral part of minus 14.734?
Minus 15.
Yeah, minus 15. So it is not minus 14, it is minus 15, like that. So now, this is about the definition of a greatest integer function. And the problem comes when you need to include the inequalities for greatest integer functions. Suppose the greatest integer function is greater than 5. Solve this, the question asked. Solve the greatest integer function greater than 5. If this is the question asked. So we need to find the x values for which the greatest integer function value is greater than 5. That means we need x values for which the greatest integer function value belongs to integers greater than 5 means 6, 7, 8, and so on. Because the greatest integer function cannot be 5.1. Greatest integer function cannot be 5.2, 5.3. The question asked is the x values for which the greatest integer function is greater than 5. Because the greatest integer function is the integer. Integer greater than 5 means integer 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. For the greatest integer function value, it is 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. Now, for greatest integer to be 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, x value should belongs to closed 6 to infinity. You take any number from 6 to infinity. If you take numbers between 6 to 7, you get 6. 7 to 8, you get 7. 8 to 9, you get 8. Like that, and so on. Right? If you write, suppose if you write x belongs to open 5 to infinity. So you're telling that x is equal to 5.1 will satisfy this inequality. You're giving x is equal to 5.1 as a solution for this inequality. If you actually substitute x is equal to 5.1 in this inequality, what you get, integral part of 5.1 is greater than 5. Integral part of 5.1 is not 5.1. Integral part of 5.1 is 5.1, suppose. Then it is fine. 5.1 will be greater than 5. But integral part of 5.1 is 5. 5 greater than 5 is the wrong statement. That is why you can't take any number between 5 to 6. Numbers between 5 to 6 are greater than 5, but their integral part is not greater than 5. Their integral part is equal to 5. Right?
Yes, sir.
So that's why you write this middle step. You convert the meaning of it into integers, because integral part is an integer. It cannot be a decimal number. Integral part cannot be a decimal number. X can be a decimal number. X can be a decimal number, but integral part cannot be a decimal number. When they told that integral part of x should be greater than 5, it should be any integer greater than 5. That is, it should be anything from 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. Next, integral part of x greater than or equal to 5. Okay, same number. Okay, I'll take the same number just to compare. In this case, what we can write?
So it'll be 5, 6, 7 onwards.
5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So automatically, x belongs to what? X belongs to?
Open interval 5 to infinity. Closed interval, sorry, closed.
So from this, writing the middle step is important, because after looking at the middle step, writing this final step is easy, because integral part of x belongs to 5 to 6 and so on means you should take 5 onwards numbers. If you take lesser number than 5, you won't get integral part 5. So you should start from 5 and all the numbers above that. Next, integral part of x less than 5. Then integral part of x belongs to and so on all negative numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I write 5?
Yes. I don't think so.
No. Because integral part of x is equal to 5, then 5 less than 5 is a wrong statement. So up to 4 only, right?
Yes.
From this, x belongs to all negative numbers are fine.
And then 4 open interval.
If you write open interval 4, all values will satisfy. Then you will never get 4, right? Open interval 4 means you will get only up to 3. 4 is also allowed for the integral part. This won't include 4.
Yes, sir.
Then what changes I should do?
So it should be closed interval 4.
Okay. If you write closed interval 4, so you are not including 4.3. 4.3 will satisfy this inequality or not? Integral part of 4.3 is 4. 4 less than 5 is true. So the 4.3 also should be the solution, should be part of solution set. But it is not included.
Sorry, sir, could you repeat that? Your voice broke in the middle.
Yeah. See that if you take 4, x is equal to, if you write x is equal to 4, this 4 closed interval, then x is equal to 4.3 is missing, right? X is equal to 4.3 is missing in this. Up to 4 only.
Yes.
4.3, if you substitute in the original equation, that satisfies the original equation. So 4.3 should be a part of solution, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So it should be 5 close open interval.
Very good. Very good. It should be open interval 5. So 5 cannot be there, but anything less than 5, 4.9999 also fine. Because when you take 4.999, its integral part value will be 4 and you get the 4. Right? Suppose if it is ending with an integer, so the corresponding x value should not end with that number. It should end with the next number, but open interval, not including the next number, open interval. Suppose it is beginning with an integer, so the interval should begin with that integer. If it is ending with one integer, interval should end with the next integer with open bracket. Beginning means same integer with closed bracket. Next, one more condition. Suppose integral part of x is less than or equal to 5. Then what we should write? Integral part of x belongs to?
All negative numbers and then until 5.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now when you're writing x belongs to, what should I write?
Yeah, minus infinity to closed interval 5.
Closed interval 5. Then again the same problem comes. The previous case, whatever problem happened.
Right. So it'll be open interval 6.
Yeah. See, if you look at this when you're writing the final answer, then you'll always go wrong. You should look at this. You should look at only this.
Yes, sir.
And you need to remember the point that if you are ending with one integer, you should write the x values with the next integer. So 5 you are ending with, next integer is 6. Right? Basically, if you write 5.4, integral part of 5.4 less than or equal to 5. 5.4 is not less than or equal to 4, but when you take the integral part of it, you'll get 5. So that 5 less than 5 true. So the more than numbers more than 5 also allowed to satisfy this inequality. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these inequalities, let us have a practice with some random numbers. Suppose if I have integral part of x is greater than 23. So what will be your answer? X belongs to.
So it'll be
Okay, we'll write the
so
middle
it'll
step.
be from 24 to infinity, right?
Very good. Very good. See, once you got the grip on the method, you can start writing directly. But till then, even after that also, you can write this middle step. That's better. Integral part of x belongs to integers more than 23 means 24, 25, and so on. So converting that into interval is easy. This is for integral part of x. This is for x. Next, integral part of x is greater than or equal to 11.
So x will belong to 11, 12, so on.
Hmm.
And x belongs to open interval 11.
The starting point is never open interval.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Open it, close interval 11, open interval infinity.
Yeah. And next, the integral part of x is less than 3.
X will belong to all the negative numbers and then up till 2.
Yeah. And x belongs to
Minus infinity to closed interval 3. Open interval 3, sorry. Open interval 3.
open interval.
So all the negative numbers and then up till 17.
Then x belongs to
Minus infinity uh, 18 and it will be open interval 18.
yeah. So the ending, if it is ending with a number, next number open interval. So the integral part ending with 2, so the next number open interval. Integral part ending with 17, next number open interval. Integral part is beginning with 11, so the same number closed interval. Integral part beginning with 24, the same number closed interval. Right?
Yes.
And even if negative number comes also, it's not a problem. We can do the same with the negative number. It is not a difficult thing with the negative number. Suppose integral part of x is greater than minus 4. Then integral part of x belongs to
All of the positive numbers and then up till minus 3.
so minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, and so on. So the x belongs to
Closed interval minus 3 and infinity.
very good. And integral part of x is greater than or equal to minus 10.
So from -10 to infinity.
Minus 10, yeah, that's final answer you're giving. -10, -9, -8, and so on. So the x belongs to -10 to infinity. So the integral part of x is less than -8.
All of the negative numbers
Hmm.
until uh, until -9.
Very good. Hmm. Then x belongs to
Yeah, minus infinity to closed interval. No, wait. Closed interval -10 or I think -8.
-8 is fine. Next number, because when you're ending with an integer, the next number should come. And
Open interval.
open interval. Very good. Next, integral part of x is less than or equal to -15. So integral part of x belongs to, and so on.
Until -15.
And then x belongs to
Minus infinity to open interval -16.
minus.
-14, sorry.
Next number. Next number is in increasing order. For negative number, number increases, the magnitude decreases, right?
Yes.
And now, finding the domain problem. There is one finding the domain problem, including this integer, greatest integer function. That is example 10. What this is in that, find the domain of the function one by root of integral part of x square minus integral part of x minus 6. Right. So you need to find the domain of this. For that,
So
yeah, the domain conditions are there. What are they? 1 by f of x is there. Then f of x not equal to 0. Root f of x is there. Then f of x should be greater than or equal to 0. Combination of both combined is there. Then f of x should be strictly greater than 0. So you can use that condition. Integral part of x the whole square minus integral part of x minus 6 greater than 0. After that, the regular factorization we can do. Minus 3 times of integral part of x plus 2 times of integral part of x minus 6 is greater than 0. Integral part of x, if you take common, integral part of x minus 3 plus 2 times of integral part of x minus 3 is greater than 0. Take integral part of x minus 3 into integral part of x plus 2 greater than 0. So now you are solving for integral part of x, not for x. First you solve for integral part of x, and then we know how to solve inequalities in integral part of x. That we do later. First zeros of these linear polynomials, the -2 and then 3. See, the integral part of x the whole square, the coefficient is positive. So you start with the positive plus sign rightmost, because the powers are all integers. You write alternate plus minus, minus plus. So you get the integral part of x belongs to the product, you need positive. So the minus infinity to open or close, that you need to see properly, because it's strictly greater than, you get open interval -2 union 3 to infinity. So now we need to use the practice that we did till now. So integral part of x belongs to this interval. We should convert integral part of x belongs to into integers, the set of integers, and so on, -4 up to where we need to write.
up till -3.
Very good. Union. And from where you need to start?
We start from 4.
Very good. And so on. Now we know how to convert this integers thing into x belongs to. Minus infinity for sure. And now tell me, ending with -3 interval. So what we should write?
So it'll be -2 open interval.
Very good. Union. Beginning with 4, then how will start?
Closed interval 4 to infinity.
Very good. Very good. That's it. We're done. Right? So any other similar problem is given also, you will be able to do now.
Yes, sir.
So what are the other models that you want to learn from relations and functions?
One second, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, there's this one question. F of x is equal to y is equal to ax minus b
Hmm.
divided by cx minus a.
Okay.
You have to prove that f of y is equal to x.
Yeah. So f of x is equal to y is equal to ax minus b by cx minus a. Then prove that f of y equal to x. So first we need to understand how to apply the definitions. When you're applying the definitions, so suppose f of x is equal to x square is the definition. F of t equal to t square. F of p equal to p square. So basically you need to read the definition as f of input is equal to input square. Now suppose g of x equal to 9x cube plus sin x. Then g of t equal to 9t cube plus sin t. So whether the x appeared once or twice, how many other times x appeared, that x is replaced with the t. Suppose g of x cube, g of p cube is given. Then what you do, 9 into, in place of x you write p cube plus sine p cube. See, all these no problems. F of t square, f of p square, g of t 9t cube by sine t, all these cases no problem because x is replaced with a single variable. When it is replaced with single variable, no problem. But when it is replaced with an expression, suddenly problem comes. And when it is replaced with p cube, x should be replaced with p cube. Here also no problem. Sin x will become sin p cube. When already one cube is there in the definition and input also having cube, then that leads to a confusion. Already one cube is here and one cube is here. So we write 9p power 9 plus sin p cube. So this kind of calculations becomes little difficult to do that. But that's why what we do is we do that input method. That means f of y we need to calculate. So LHS equal to f of y equal to f of y is what? Ax minus b by cx minus a. See, when input is p square itself is little difficult. Suppose here input is 9x cube plus sin x itself. Suppose the input itself is 9x cube plus sin x. The definition and input both are same. Suddenly you'll get confused. So in those cases, what I suggest is you write in unchanged quantities, 9 cube plus sine, unchanged quantities, 9 cube plus sine. Unchanged quantities you write as it is. cube, 9 cube plus sine. The changed quantity is only x. So the quantity which you need to change, you keep an empty bracket and write everything else. First write the unchanged ones, the 9 cube plus sine. Next, that changed one x can be replaced with the expression. So that means till you write the unchanged expressions, don't look at the input at all. So don't bother about the input initially, bother only about the definition. Even though the input and definition are same, don't look at the input, look at only the definition. After that, you look at the input. The input is 9x cube plus sin x. Replace x with that 9x cube plus sin x. 9x cube plus sin x. If simplification is possible or required, you do the simplification. Otherwise, you leave like that, that's the answer. Here, there is no simplification required. That's why you leave like that, that's the answer. But when it comes to this, f of something, what is the definition of f of x? Ax minus b by cx minus a. That means a input minus b by c input minus a. So unchanged ones, I'm giving the numbering for them. 1, 2, 3, 4 divided by 5, c, 6, 7. 7 numbers or symbols are unchanged. Only these two x's need to be replaced with the input. So don't even look at the input. So you should cover the input with your hand or with your fingers. You should not look at the input at all. You should only look at the definition of f. The definition of f is unchanged ones, a minus b divided by c minus a. All those you write as it is. All those you write as it is. That means equal to a. You'll write little bigger numbers because the expression that you need to substitute is also a little bigger. You at least know that that is a little bigger expression. That much is enough. Don't even look at what is that. You just need to know that that is a little bigger expression so that you can leave bigger space. Minus unchanged 1, unchanged 2, unchanged 3, unchanged 4. I wrote divided by already. Unchanged 5. And the input x. For the input, how many times x is appeared, that many times you write a bracket. Unchanged 6, unchanged 7. So these unchanged numbers, whatever are there, unchanged numbers or symbols. A, B, C, A are numbers. Minus divided by minus are symbols. Whether it is a number or a symbol, unchanged ones you should write. After completion of writing the unchanged ones, then you need to look at what is the input. The input is same as the definition, that doesn't matter for us. The input from here you need to copy it as it is. Ax minus b by cx minus a. Ax minus b by cx minus a. We are done with the problem. In the previous case, we don't need any simplification because we can't simplify it further. We left like that. But in this case, it is possible to do some simplification. That's why we'll do some simplification. What simplification we can do? We can multiply the numerator a into a square x minus ab. Cross multiplication b into this minus b into cx minus a whole divided by cx minus a by denominator also cax minus cb minus a times cx minus a divided by cx minus a. The cx minus a can be cancelled. Now what you get? A square x minus ab minus bx minus minus plus ab whole divided by cax minus cb minus acx plus a square. CAX,
So what would be in the numerator? It will be minus bcx.
bcx.
A square x.
Yeah. BC. C is best. Yeah. So the AB and AB get cancelled. Now what you remind in the numerator? A square x minus BCX Denominator, what you remind with? A square minus BC. If you take x common in the numerator, a square minus BC, and denominator also a square minus BC. These two get cancelled and you remain with x. It is not just about this particular problem. Any other problem with the definitions, you need to follow this unchanged numbers or symbol writing first and keeping a bigger bracket based on the size of the input. Keeping a bigger bracket in place of x. How many ever times x is present in the definition? That many times you need to keep a bracket, and that many times input you need to substitute.
So one last problem. The f of x is equal to 1 by root of x minus mod x.
X minus 4x. Huh?
Mod x, mod x.
Mod x minus mod x.
Yeah.
So what they're asking us to find the domain.
Domain and range.
Yeah, this is example 11. Yeah. Domain of the function, we can find both domain and range. So the domain condition here is x minus integral part of x is greater than 0. Just now we discussed that domain condition, last one. So x minus in the denominator under root expression is there. This should be greater than 0. That means x should be greater than mod x. X should be greater than mod x. You can simplify this in two cases. Case 1, whenever the modulus is there, you need two cases. Case 1 where inside the modulus expression is positive.
But
Case,
isn't that impossible?
yeah, that's what the impossible. We understood that x greater than mod x is not possible because either x is equal to mod x or less than mod x. But instead of confirming that at this point itself, we'll write more simplified form of this expression and then confirm that it is not possible. Case 1, in case x is greater than 0, because x equal to 0 is not allowed. If x is equal to 0, the denominator will be 0. That's why there will be only two cases. Case 1, x positive. Case 2, x negative. In case of x is positive, the mod x should be replaced with x. X greater than x you get. In case of x is positive, then mod x should be replaced with x. Then the inequality will change its form into x greater than x. X greater than x is not possible for any x, that we know, right? So accepting x greater than x is a not possible inequality is easy than accepting this. So it is not possible. X greater than x is not possible for any positive number. So answer from this is empty. Next, coming to this, x less than x. In case of x less than x, mod x should be replaced with minus x. Then bring the minus x to this side, x plus x, 2x greater than 0. So x greater than 0. That means in case of x net less than 0, this inequality is true only if x is positive. So already we started with x negative, then x cannot be positive. So that means what they're expecting is x should be negative and positive at a time. That is also not possible. At a time, x cannot be negative and positive. You can write at a time, x cannot be negative and positive, therefore empty set. So in both cases, you are not getting any x values satisfying this. So the domain is empty set. So when the domain
So because
When the domain is empty set, we say that it is not a function also. So the definition is not a function. F is not a function also, we say. And the range automatically, there are no inputs, there won't be any outputs. The range is also empty set. Yeah. You're asking something? Yeah.
No, sir, no, sir.
Yeah.
So what is the signum function?
Signum function, we'll discuss that. Signum function is a kind of signal function. It will give a signal, like the definition of that is signum of x equal to 1 if x is greater than 0, equal to -1 if x is less than 0, equal to 0 if x is equal to 0. For example, suppose your marks card, your marks result, instead of marks card, let us consider your marks result, the exam result, final exam results. Nowadays, like results, you are directly getting the marks list instead of a pass fail result. But earlier, the board used to release the pass fail result first, and after some days, like some week or 10 days, people used to get marks. So that time, so the result will be of 3 types. What are the 3 types of result that the person can have? Is one is pass, one is fail, the other one is absent. Absent. So the person is absent for the test, so the result will come as absent. The person is present and got more than 35% marks, 35 or more than 35, then he will get the result as pass. If he is getting less than 35, irrespective of whether he is getting 34, 32, 31, 0, any mark that he is getting, he will get the result as fail. Similar to that, here also, for all positive numbers, the image is 1. Like how for all numbers greater than 35, the result is printed as pass. Same way, for all positive numbers, the signum function giving the output as 1. For all positive numbers, the output is given as 1. And for all negative numbers, the output is given as -1. And for all zeros, I mean, there will be only 1 0 and one number 0. If the number 0 is given as input, only in that case 0 will come as the output. So if you draw the graph of it, you can see the graph like this. This is 1, -1. The empty circle indicates that this point is not included, because at 0 the image is not 0. At 0 the image is 0 itself. At -1 also the image is not 0. But for all the numbers which are less than 0, the image is -1. So this is the graph of the signum function. From the graph also you can find the domain and range. I told, like in the 4 methods which we started in the beginning. See what we can write the domain of this function by observing the graph along the x-axis. Wherever the graph is present, that is domain. Throughout the x-axis graph is present, there is no real number for which you can't calculate signum function. For every real number you can calculate. So that's why domain is all real numbers. And the range of this, the possible outputs, that's what I told. When there are number of outputs are finite and less in number, you just can pick all the outputs, possible outputs, and write the range -1, 0, 1. But there is another way of writing this signum function using the modulus. What is that? You can combine these 2 definitions. You can combine these 2 definitions and write x by mod x. And if x not equal to 0, and equal to 0 if x is equal to 0. This is also the same. Sir, how this is same as that means we have a method of redefining the function. You can split this into 2 cases. What are the two cases? X by mod x, if x greater than 0, and the same x by mod x, if x less than 0. Both cases it's the same. If you simplify it, then what you get equal to x by mod x. In case of x positive, mod x should be replaced with x by x, if x greater than 0. And in case of x negative, mod x should be replaced with minus x by minus x, if x less than 0. So if you simplify it, 1 if x is positive, minus 1 if x is negative. So to give the proof from here to here, I worked in reverse order. I simplified this and I got this. So that's why we could replace this part with this. That's why sometimes they'll give signum function like this also. Sometimes they won't even mention this. They will simply write the x by mod x. That means in that case, it won't be complete signum function. It will be only signum function for non-zero real numbers. The actual original signum function is defined at 0 also, but the image is 0. But if you write only x by mod x, this is not the complete signum function, because this is not defined at x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 0, you can't calculate the value of it. It is calculated only when x is non-zero, right? Like this, we can
Yes, sir.
draw the graphs for all the other functions. You want me to explain any other the graphs like modulos or what are the other?
No, sir. No, sir. Sir, this question from NCRT, I didn't get.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that?
F of x is equal to x square divided by 1 by x square. They're telling you to find the range.
Find the range of it. Yeah. So to find the range of it, you can use the y method is one method. Otherwise, you can start from where x lies and then get where this lies is also fine. So we know that x square greater than or equal to 0. That implies add 1 to it. 1 plus x square is greater than or equal to 1. Basically, you got that 1 plus x square is a positive number. If you divide an inequality with a positive number, the inequality remains the same. So this implies x square by 1 plus x square is greater than or equal to 0 by 1 plus x square. Because x square is greater than or equal to 0, we have. So we divided with a positive quantity. So why we need to divide the positive quantity? You can divide with any hundreds of positive quantities are there. But we are looking to find the interval in which this expression lies. Our interest in this problem is to identify where this lies. That's why, like how in the range problems, we'll start our investigation from a known factor, and we keep improving that to reach that expression, whatever they're given. To reach this expression, I have this inequality, I need to divide with 1 plus x square. Directly, if I divide with 1 plus x square, 1 plus x square is a variable. I can't give any conclusion. That's why first I did the investigation about 1 plus x square. I understood that that is a positive number, and then I divided with 1 plus x square. After that, what I get, x square by 1 plus x square greater than or equal to 0. So the minimum value of this I got. With that, it is not the end. You should go for the other possibilities also, because you may have the maximum value for this. Now, another fact. We know that x square is less than x square plus 1, not even equal to, because you are adding one to the x square. So the definitely x square plus 1 is greater than x square. Definitely x square plus 1 is greater than x square. See, I'm doing it in two cases. You can do it in one case also. After that, I will explain how to do it in one case. So x square is less than x square plus 1. So why you are starting with only these? Because again, I want a relation between these two and I want to see this expression, right? Here I got an expression inequality where x square is greater than one number. I want to have another inequality in which x square is less than some other number. That number is x square plus 1. Again, since x square plus 1 is positive, divide with x square plus 1 throughout. X square by x square plus 1 is less than x square plus 1 by x square plus 1. So the x square by x square plus 1 is less than 1. Right? So the x square, so what we got conclusion, this and this together if you write, 0 is less than or equal to x square by 1 plus x square is less than 1. So x square by x square plus 1 belongs to closed 0 to open 1. So the range of f of x is closed 0 to 1. So this also should be considered as the second method. We start from a known fact. And then we'll try to reach the expression given. Instead of doing it in two cases, we can start with alternate. Or we know that basically combine these two. 0 is less than or equal to x square is less than x square plus 1. Directly start with this. And here itself it is given that x square plus 1 is a positive number greater than 0. As x square plus 1 is positive, 0 by x square plus 1 less than or equal to x square by x square plus 1 less than x square plus 1 by x square plus 1. So the 0 is less than or equal to x square by x square plus 1. Instead of doing it in two cases, in one case only you get the range.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you tried the y method first, or what method you tried? Which one?
Yes, sir. I tried through Y method because it was polynomial.
Yeah, we'll just see that like what are the difficulties in that y method also is not a problem. Let f of x equal to y, that implies x square by x square plus 1 equal to y. That implies x square equal to yx square plus y. That implies x square into 1 minus y equal to y. That implies x square equal to y by 1 minus y. That implies x is equal to the plus minus root of y by 1 minus y. Right? So in y method also you write like this. And after writing like this, for x to be real, x should be a real number. Domain of that function is clearly all real numbers. For x to be real numbers, inside the modulus expression, y by 1 minus y should be greater than or equal to 0. You can have 0 also inside the root, not a problem. But you can't have 0 in the denominator. So when you have this inequality, in inequalities, a by b greater than 0 implies ab greater than 0. A fraction is greater than 0 only if the product of numerator and denominator greater than 0. A fraction is greater than or equal to 0 implies ab greater than 0 or equal to 0 will be given only to the numerator, not to the denominator. Same way the denominator, negative also. A by b less than 0 implies ab less than 0. A by b less than or equal to 0 implies ab less than 0 or a equal to 0. Numerator is allowed to be 0. If you use that logic for this, y into 1 minus y greater than 0 or y equal to 0. Again, Bevikov method, if you see, this is 0 and this is 1. And y square coefficient is negative, you start from minus rightmost plus minus. Product is positive. You want the product to be positive, y belongs to open interval 0 to 1. Or y equal to 0 is there. So finally, y belongs to closed 0 to open 1. So the range is closed 0 to 1. So the y method is also not difficult for it and not lengthy. It's the same almost. You can do that.
Yes.
Any other concept from sets or any particular problem from relations? Sorry. Relations and bounds.
Not really, sir.
That problems at the end of the miscellaneous example, some problems are there based on the relations. If you have the textbook, that
Yes.
example 19 and miscellaneous exercise question number 9. They are different from all the other problems. A kind of approach in writing. Which one you want me to explain? If it is 19 and then 9, example 19 and exercise 9.
Sir, I saw the explanation in the video, sir. That was
Okay.
okay.
From that you understood, then it's fine.
Yes, sir. But sir, can't we also do it like they've given in the example 19,
Ah.
they've given A comma B belongs to R.
Hmm.
So because A comma B is an ordered pair,
Hmm.
then so if you take an example like 2 comma 3 belongs to R.
No. We can't give example for the proof. That is the condition. When the question, if it is a disproof, if you are saying that it is not true, then you can give an example. When it comes to prove, you should write only the arbitrary elements.
But sir, if it's an ordered pair, then that means both of the elements of the ordered pair belong to the relation, right?
Both of the elements of the order pair means if A comma B together belongs to the relation. No, individually A and B but does not belong to relation. So R is on Q. So A comma B belongs to
okay.
Q.
Right.
Comma belongs to Q. But the order pair belongs to R.
Right. Okay, understood. Yes, sir.